So I just wanted to give a very brief overview of the project, and to some of you this might be duplicating what we have been showing in this video that we produced at the beginning of the project. But I'm trying also in this short presentation, it's going to be only like maximum of 10 minutes, maybe less. I'm trying to bring up a few challenges as well that we are identifying, the things that we are discussing and where we're sort of struggling or muddling through a bit. And one of those things is, well, a thing that I saw in the chat here is about action, you know, what constitutes action research and in the project lifespan or beyond, etc. And those are things that we're, like everyone else, are sort of struggling a bit with. But obviously it can mean different things also in the different context, or probably must mean different things also in the different case study contexts, depending on the institutions and other contexts. So this is the basic setup of the project. Maybe you've seen this before. I just wanted to show it again. And a very sort of short and maybe simplistic aim statement that we present here is that we want to understand marine resource conflicts and to develop practical strategies for transforming them and somehow link them to sustainability pathways. And obviously linked to all of these different concepts, there are, you know, discussions and clarifications. What exactly is a conflict here, and what constitutes the sustainability pathways, and those are things that we can, I think, discuss more on how we're thinking later on. In organizing the project, we set up this sort of work plan, which with these thematic work packages, which are also sort of arranged in a timing sense, at least the first ones, in that we, in addressing and looking into the particular conflicts in the case studies, we need to first assess you know, the root causes, the governance arrangements, etc., linked to the conflicts, and then we need to work with looking into what particular transformation approaches might be viable in the different contexts. And then we have a work package which we call institutionalizing, which is about developing pathways, but also thinking about a theory of change on how these pathways might be brought about. And then we have a case study which is more about capacity building, social learning, and outreach. So the idea is, in implementing this, that we first we had a stage where we developed what we called methodological and analytical guidelines, which within each of these work packages we have developed documents that we have discussed and shared both within and beyond the project on how what the key issues are in relation to these different work packages, and how to potentially work with them in the different case study context. And then the second stage that we're starting now is the more in-depth case studies. And then there's a final stage, which is more about trying to learn among the different cases, but also to work with outreach, capacity building, etc. And then we have this box at the end, at the bottom, which indicates these ambitions of partnering up with actors, and both within the different case study context and beyond, at the, for instance, the international arena. And this is where the different forms of dialogue forums come in. So in our planning, we say that we are arranging case-specific dialogues in various ways, and also these more overarching dialogues. So that's the setup. And obviously, and I think this is something that Fred will be saying a few words later on, and we can discuss. We have the term conflict here, and as we've used it, it's very broadly conceived. We're not looking into military conflict, but it's other type of resource-related conflicts, and in relation to use, interest, identity, justice, and various unsustainabilities. So we can talk more about that if you like later. We also describe conflicts as being very pervasive and increasing, and not least linked to blue growth initiatives around the world. But we also focus our analysis on the idea that all conflicts are not per definition negative, but they can also, there can be a potential for realizing productive outcomes. To you guys, I'm sure this is not a new thinking, but I just wanted to put it up there. And then we have these, both in the call and in the project, there are these very clear transdisciplinary ambitions linked to participatory methods, dialogue, co-production. And obviously this is, especially in COVID times, something which we're struggling with. Like many of the other projects in the call. So this is something that we will be adjusting and muddling through as we go. We also have these ideas of the co-created conflict transformation and sustainability pathways, and this links to the question of what can actually be achieved within the time frame of the project. And we actually, I don't have a clear answer to that. We need to discuss that in the case study context, but obviously implementing new laws and regulations in a 3-year or affecting that is not really realistic in most cases. So it needs to be some building on theories of change is one aspect that we have been discussing. And then we have this aim of learning among the cases and upscaling any insights to other arenas. And moving on to the next, in relation to that issue, if we see our very wide coverage of case studies that you will be hearing more about pretty soon. It's obvious that the different contexts here we're studying are very different in a number of different ways, looking at governance structures and arrangements and power relations, but also the role taken and the of the different research teams may vary substantially, meaning that we're not, or we're having quite a lot of discussions in the project on the extent that we can do cross-case analysis. I tend to use the term learning instead to indicate that we're not aiming for a full cross-case comparison here, but more to try to learn as much as possible among the different cases to the extent it's possible. But clearly they are just looking in a variety of different dimensions here. If we look at the global north and the global south, there are some quite some major differences and probably problems in trying to really learn from one case to the other in some aspects, but and in others maybe not so problematic. So those are some challenges that we have identified. Just quickly about the project implementation, as Bruce mentioned, I can't really remember now actually when we sent in the proposal. Maybe this was 2019 or maybe it was 2018. I can't remember, but we got the funding decision very early 2020, 2020. And then for various reasons in setting, primarily it had to do with the complex international funding scheme. There were delays. So many of the partners didn't get their contracts or the funding, and still I think we have some issues related to that. So that's one of the main reasons why we have been delayed. But obviously at the same time we had the pandemic that struck the world, which is having, I think, will have quite substantial impact in some of the cases in relation to what, how participatory work can be implemented and when. But actually, we don't really know the full extent of this yet. Luckily, we've done much of the first year has been linked to this more desktop type of analysis and scoping exercises. So it's only now that we are moving into the planned more in-depth case study phase. But related to, so you see the anticipated timeline up in this chart. We're planning for a sort of post-project period where some of us do have funding to cover that. Others, I guess, will, like it's somehow common in research that you produce outputs after the project is over. One thing that we're planning for the final year is that we're planning to put together specific stakeholder, or to pick up insights and producing more adjusted communication, working even more with that in the final year, or targeted to specific countries or specific settings. And at the bottom, I mentioned some of the risks that we see in the related to COVID, that we are risks of not achieving sufficient dialogue and co-production, and I think risks in getting a fragmentation of the project, in that we are experiencing different degrees of problems in the different case study settings. Yeah, and this is just, we can spread these. These are just some things that we have listed in terms of outputs. On top of research articles and books, there is a clear plan to produce these policy and practical advice, which is targeted to different specific audiences of relevance in both the case study setting and beyond.